Welcome to episode 5 of the AmericanNoise podcast. We are detailing the Seattle Dragons, who, to be honest, are probably the weakest team in the league so far, which is pretty much a shame. They have apparently the highest ticket sales. They're expecting 20,000 easily, and that was just 3 weeks ago. Don't even know if it's sold out now for their home opener, but which isn't this week. It's not till week 2 or week 3 at least, but they are in fact the lowest in the odds. And that kind of sucks. But that's just how it is. So they will have to work their way all the way up from the bottom in 8th. They are the supposedly weakest team in the West, behind the Renegades, Roughnecks, and Wildcats. A bit of off topic. As many people know, the Landry Jones situation. He is questionable for week 1. It looks like he did throw some today. He got the helmet on, he got the pads on. He is possible for week 1. Josh Johnson, like Landry Jones, did not start the scrimmage game, and Knopf did instead, that scrimmage game back in mid-January. And Josh Johnson is still hurt. So both of the top West QBs, perhaps the top XFL QBs in the league, are questionable for week 1. That's not great. Which does give the chance for the Roughnecks, and in some cases the Dragons, a chance for an early strike. And they might need it. So, how did this all start? Well, to be honest, the Dragons have had a kind of a rough patch when it came to the naming. Other teams pretty simply had 1 or 2 really good names. The XFL knew what they wanted. They named certain teams Renegades. Well, Wildcats is a bit of a weak name, but they knew what they wanted for each team. The Dragons' names got leaked in late June, and they weren't even released till mid-August. And it was obvious which one was the real one, which one's the fake. Let's see. Dragons, Wild, Fury, Surge, and Force. It's pretty obvious which one's the real name in that, isn't it? So yeah, they pretty much got leaked 1.5 months before officially being revealed, which is not the best. But, yep, that's just how it is. Now, Jim Zorn has come in to coach them. He's been in Seattle for a long time. He was a quarterback coach for the Seahawks for like 7 straight years. He's been a quarterback coach in the NFL for a long time. He's had the experience. He can lead this team. The problem is his talent is a bit lack, which we'll get into in a bit. He did get a couple of very qualified people at the coordinator positions. Offensive coordinator is Mike Riley, who's served as head coach in both Oregon State and Nebraska, and Clayton Lopez is the defensive coordinator. He has been a D-backs coach in the NFL for both the Rams and Raiders. But yeah, their odds are not great. Some sports books have put them as low as 1,200 or even 1,500. And they're pretty much last or second to last, trading the position with the Battlehawks in every single odds book. So, it's a long road up. And honestly, the quarterback situation looks pretty fine. B.J. Daniels is starting, and Brandon Silvers is backing up more likely than not. Both were decently good QBs. Silvers shined in what was an absolute disaster of a situation down in Memphis during the Alliance. B.J. Daniels wasn't even able to play due to being injured, but neither of them really had a good shake. And they don't really have any breakup players. The closest they have is Kenneth Farrell at running back. Jaquan Gardner's backing him up. That's about the closest they have to a surefire breakup player. They do not really have a Landry Jones. They do not have a Sean Oakman type player. They don't have a Josh Johnson. Who's the Vipers running back in who's really good? Yes, they don't have a Quentin Flowers. They don't have or Antonio Callaway, who's currently apparently hurt as well. They don't have that huge breakout player to help them stand out. And Jim Zorn's not the huge coach like Stoops is or Trestman to also elevate them. And all in all, despite having not the best fan base social online yet, that goes to the Battlehawks and the Renegades are fighting in second, but they have the highest ticket sales, and that kind of stinks because what's their week? Do they play home games in week 2 or 3? Because if they go in their week 3 and they're completely battered, that's gonna stink. Let's see here. They're at home in week 2 and week 3 against the Vipers and Renegades. Oh man. So after likely losing the Defenders, they gotta go home against the stable crowd, and in week 2 and week 3, they gotta play the division favorites. They could be 0-3 by the time week 4 rolls around, and they get a sufficiently, somewhat possibly easy opponent in St. Louis. They could be dead by the end of week 3. If they even scrape one win out in that slot, they have a decent chance of making the playoffs. That's just how hard the early section of their schedule is. But anyway, back to the depth chart. Kason Williams and Austin Prohl will lead the wide receiving core. Evan Rodriguez is tight end, and they have a ton of tight ends. Of course, Roughnecks aren't rolling for tight end. Tight end is not going to be very important in most of the offenses. Apparently, the Dragons' offense under Zorn is going to be very tight end based. They have several of them on the roster. The starting center is likely to be Dylan Day. Kirk Barron will back him up. Both of the guard positions have no current backups, according to the latest depth chart reports. Venzuel Bolware at right guard and Cyril Richardson at left guard are alone. The tackles do have backups. Their starters at left tackle are Isaiah Battle. That's an excellent last name. And William Campbell over at right tackle covering the strong side. On defense, they do have Keith Smith, Will Sutton, who is a really good player, and Praise Martin Ogle, who are all going to start on the defensive line. Marcel Frazier and Miles Durant could also get some serious amount of snaps. The linebacking core is Steven Johnson, Nick Temple, Niles Morgan, Kyle Curio, Steve Williams, and Channing Stribling. Channing Stribling and Steve Williams are also part of the defensive back core. Godwin Oblique is there, Martin Jorman, and Jeremy Clark. And of all of their other hardships, with the name leaks and such, and being the worst in odds, they lost their kicker before the season. And, I mean, for the season. It's not like a week 1 questionable Josh Johnson or Landry Jones. No, they straight up lost their kicker. Garrett Hartley was supposed to be the kicker entering week 1. I believe he even kicked in the Super Bowl once. His spine is jacked up, and he's not medically cleared. So apparently on Saturday they worked out several different kickers, and they've eventually decided to hire Ernesto Lacayo, who's been arena footballing for nearly a solid decade. He has experience. We'll see how he kicks on the big stage. But the thing with the Dragons, they seem to be having setback after setback, and it seems like the next logical progression is 0-3, which would suck. Their fan base seems ready to go. The local is in support. They got Pete Carroll on their side, but they just do not look up to task. So, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they can mount some sort of effort, but it looks like they will be the first losers, as in they lose the first game of the XFL season to the Defenders in the Capitol. Maybe they pull off an upset. They're not favored. They're definitely down. They're probably the longest shot week 1 odds at about 7.5 points. They're also fine with the Battlehawks for the honor of largest largest underdog in the opening week. So yeah, not great positioning. Not when they're facing a possible Eastern Division champion. I mean, the Eastern Division's 3 strong teams, and the Defenders are one of them. And they got to play in week 1, and they got to play the top 2 arguably teams in the league in weeks 2 and 3. We're going to have to check back on the team in week 3. If they've won 1 game, they're fine. If they've won 2 or 3, championship contenders. But it's very likely to go out of this 0-3. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how important that home field advantage is very early on, considering the talent of this team compared to the Vipers and Renegades. This was episode 5 of the AmericanNoise podcast. And now we will be moving on to the Eastern Division as we are within 90 hours of Game 1. We'll be seeing you next time. And folks, very plainly, may the Dragons have all the luck in the world. Because right now, they sorely need some good in it.